Right, we're going to talk obviously about Shavuos and the preparations for Shavuos. But tomorrow evening, we are starting one of these 72-hour fundraising campaigns for the yeshiva. I'd just like to point out how important and vital this is for the yeshiva. Last year, when we ran a campaign, we supported the yeshiva 6-7 months with a campaign, and the boys, the Talmidim, played a tremendous role. They raised a lot of money. It's not comfortable. I do it myself. It's not comfortable raising money, but it's what we need. Without the funds, we can't pay our suppliers. We can't pay the rebbeim. So it's a very critical thing, and everyone should participate. The main thrust of the campaign is tomorrow evening, which again will be morning time, afternoon time in America and Canada, and even in England, it'll a couple hours behind. And you'll be getting lists of people that have a connection to the yeshiva, either former students of the yeshiva or people, and also calling your contacts, the people that you have a kesher with, you have a connection with. Very, very critical for the yeshiva's survival. It's we've already seen the effects. We've been raising money for the campaign now a couple of months, and we've seen that it helps. It helps tremendously. So just hope that everybody's going to participate enthusiastically. I think that the plan is tomorrow night, guys going all night as much as they can. And then Sunday we'll start at about 6:30, 6 o'clock, 6:30, and we'll be going all the way through. And don't think that you don't have a role. The boys play a tremendous role. And I think also just to realize, most of the Talmidim here are on scholarships. They're not paying, and this is a way to give back to yeshiva. So I think this is a great opportunity. We'll be sitting there too. The rebbeim will be sitting in the Cheder Ochel together with you, working to try to raise money. And we should be matzliach. Hopefully we can support the yeshiva again for another nice chunk of time with the events. You got any questions? Okay. So I'd like to talk a little bit about Shavuos. I think next week, Bezrat Hashem, hopefully we'll have Rav Asher Weiss Shlita will be giving us a talk for the whole yeshiva, pre-Shavuos. But I'd like to address the question of the Magen Avraham. So the Magen Avraham was a commentary on Shulchan Aruch, and in Siman Taf Tzadik Dalid, he brings down the idea that we stay up all night. We call Tikkun Leil, the fact that we stay up, we're awake, learning the whole night of Shavuos. The Magen Avraham brings this idea. And he says, why? Why is it that we stay up all night? And he says we want to be metaken. Mashayu avoseinu yeshenim az. Koidim matan Torah kedeisa b'medrash. So our forefathers were actually sleeping, according to the Medrash, were sleeping when they got the Torah, right? And so that's why this is l'taken. That's what we call tikkun le'el, is to be metaken this, that to fix it up, we stay up all night. Okay? That's the Magen Avraham. That's a source. That's why we stay up all night for Shavuos. So Rav Tzadok HaKohen, one of the great Hasidic masters, he says, wait a minute. It's very nice, this idea in the Magen Avraham, that we stay up in order to be metaken, that we fell asleep. But the problem is, if you look at the continuation of the Medrash says like this: Sheina shel etzeres, the sleep that they had on Shavuos, areva, it was sweet. It was a sweet sleep. V'halayla ktsara, it was a short night. Yeshenu lehem Yisrael, kol oso alayla. And the Jews slept. So in other words, the idea over here was sweet. So if it's sweet, what's wrong with it? Right? Why? So okay, they slept. But it was sweet. And also, the Reb Tzadok brings down, what was the sweetness? They received a sweetness of Torah. They received a desire for Torah. So what was so bad about that? In other words, if the whole idea is we're fixing up the idea that they slept, if the sleeping, it put an enhanced desire for Torah, an enhanced desire for Torah and mitzvahs, so what? What's wrong with it? Right? And why do we have to, it's hard staying up all night. It's hard learning all night. It's hard, persevering. So why do we have to do this? So Tzaddik Cohen says an interesting idea, and this is what I like to open up here. He says the idea is that when we receive the sweetness of Torah by sleeping passively, there was no effort involved. And Torah, for whatever reasons, and this is what we're going to talk about today, Torah has to come through difficulty and effort. That's how Torah comes. Why? We have to discuss why. But Torah has to come through hard effort, and Torah has to come through difficulty and overcoming difficulty, and that's how Torah is acquired, right? All of our sages tell us over and over and over again that is the acquisition of Torah. If a person thinks he's just going to get it intravenously, like our forefathers did at Har Sinai, that they slept through it and they were given this desire for learning, it doesn't work like that. And therefore, every year, we have to stay up to remember that that's not the way to receive the Torah. Moshe Feinstein had a famous question, right? And this question brings out the same idea. Moshe Feinstein's question was, again, I don't know if you're familiar with this concept, but there's the Jewish concept that a child, when he's in his mother's womb, learns the entire Torah. You've heard this idea before. He learns the entire Torah, right? And as he's coming out, a malach, an angel, touches him over here in the cleft of the lip, and he forgets everything, right? You've heard that idea before. Okay, so questions like this. Moshe's question was, halacha. If a pregnant woman walks in the room, she should stand up, right? When a gadol walks in the room, you have to stand up, right? A great Rav walks in the room, you have to stand up. So when a pregnant woman walks in the room, you should have to stand up, because why? In her womb is a child that knows the entire Torah. So you should have to stand up for her, right? But Moshe answered, no. The child didn't work for it. You have to stand up for a Talmid Chacham that spent his whole life toiling and working in Torah and striving in Torah. It was handed to him. It was the Malach came and taught him the whole Torah. Yeah, so what? That's not limud Torah. That doesn't count as real Torah. Real Torah is only through hard work. Chazal tell us there's 3 ways to acquire Torah. One is miut tanugim. You have to lessen your amount of pleasures in this world. Again, I'm not saying that as a plug why the food over here is whatever it is, but no, you have to have less. Okay, Ozzy's saying the food is great. Yeah. So Lamaisa, you have to have less pleasure in this world. You can't have the same amount of pleasures that you have before you come to learn. Tsar, there's pain in learning. You hit a sugya that you don't understand. You hit a rishon that you don't understand, right? Sometimes you're tired and you have to push yourself. And also, nidud shena, you sleep less. So all these things is how the Torah is acquired. It's an interesting thing that the Torah has to be acquired through difficulty. I'll give you 2 examples of things that I saw in my earlier days, my yeshiva days. Again, I don't think we're holding by this, but just to give you an idea of how the Torah is acquired with tremendous effort and tremendous sacrifice. So I was in a kollel. I was a young man, and it was a very special kollel. And the Rosh Kollel was a big Talmid Chacham. And, the way the kollel worked, you had to learn an amud a day, be'iyun. That's how it was a very intense kollel. Right? Imagine that, an amud a day be'iyun. That means with all the Rishonim and the Achronim and everything. Yeah, it was very intense. Anyway, so we were learning there in the Beis Medrash. And all of a sudden, the Rosh Kollel, we hear a boom. We hear a boom in the Beis Medrash. Everyone's like, "Oh, what happened?" And we see the Rosh Kollel sprawled on the floor. The Rosh Kollel used to come in every day, give a short shiur, 20 minutes, and he had all the Rishonim and Achronim in his pocket because he'd stay up all night, working on it. So, anyways, he was sprawled on the floor. So we poured water on him and got him back up again. And we said, "Well, what happened?" So, didn't sleep for a while. So when we pushed him, he hadn't slept for 36 hours straight. I'm saying, again, I'm not saying we're holding by that. I'm not saying we should do that. But the Torah is acquired through difficulty. I was Zoich, I learned 2 years by one of the great Gedolim, Rabbi Yisrael Zev Gustman, of blessed memory, the Kuntras Shiurim, one of the great Gedolim. And he told us, again, we're not holding by this, but it gives an idea. This is giving an idea who Rav Gusman was. He finished Shas when he was 13. He finished all the Meforshim when he was 18. At 22, he was a dayan in Vilna on Rav Chaim Ozer Gajinsky, the Gadol Hador. He was on a dayan on his base. And again, he was a person that tremendous, achievements. And when he was in yeshiva, he told us, he learned by Rav Shimon Shkop, one of the great Gedolim. And when he was in yeshiva, he said that Rav Shimon had 2 shiurim a week that he said. Right? We have shiur every day here, but in Rav Shimon's yeshiva, they had shiur once a week because they the boys knew how to learn very well. And they had a shiur once a week, very much in depth. And he had 1 shiur a week, he said, in yeshiva, and 1 shiur a week that he said to Balabatim, that he said to the working crowd. And that shiur was a 4-hour train ride from the yeshiva. Okay? They go on a train 4 hours to hear the shiur by the Balabatim. And he said that they used to fast. They had money each day for their food. They had enough money to buy the food for the day. They would fast the day before the shiur, save the money to go on the train 4 hours to hear the shiur that Rav Shimon said to the Balabatim, right? And Rav Gusman said he was there 5 years by Rav Shimon. He never missed 1 shiur by the Balabatim. And he had to fast the day before the shiur, take the money, use the money for the train. And he said even if he was running a fever of, I don't know, in centigrade, I guess more than 38, 39, he would still, or if it's Fahrenheit, more than 100, and he would get on the train 4 hours to go hear the shiur. So again, are we holding by that? No. But when we do have difficulties, challenges that have to be overcome, and we'll talk about what kind of challenges we have to overcome. I mean, we're not doing those kind of things, but what kind of challenges we have to overcome, that's how Torah is acquired. And the Gemara says in Brachas, Daf Samad Gimel, Amud Beis, Amar Reish Lakish, Ein Divrei Torah Miskaimim El B'Misha Meimis Atzmoi Aleho. The Torah is only fulfilled in a person that kills himself over it. Very amazing description over here that he has to work hard. He has to work hard, push himself, work hard to the full of his abilities, and that's how Torah is acquired. Through sacrifice, through hard work, that's how the Torah is acquired. So the basic question is as follows. Why is it that way? Why is it the Rabbanu Shalom could have made the Torah so much easier? Like, why is it that we have to go through all this difficulty? Yeah, all these challenges. For us, I mean, it's learning Hebrew, learning Aramaic, the given text of the Gemara, there's no punctuation, the give and take is so difficult. So many times you learn a Gemara and then you say, I don't understand. Why? Why is it so difficult? No, good question. Why is learning Gemara? Why is learning Torah so challenging? Yeah? Okay, so I'm going to take it on a superficial plane, and then hopefully we'll deal with it on a deeper plane. Superficial plane is the more work you put into something, the more reward you get. Right? Chazal tell us in Tana B'Eliyahu, Pam b'tzar, any mitzvah you do with suffering, with pain, is kameya shalo b'tzar, is like 100 without pain. So any mitzvah you do, which is hard, like a lot of people may be honoring their parents, especially if they're yelling at you for being in yeshiva, it's a hard mitzvah to do, right? Or even learning is hard, right? For other people, sometimes getting up for chakras is hard. Whatever mitzvah is hard is like 100 times a mitzvah that's not hard, right? You get 100 times the amount of schar, right? Pam b'tzar kameya shalo b'tzar. So there's more reward. You work hard, you get more reward for what you're doing. Secondly, there's more of a sense of satisfaction. When you work for something, the sense of satisfaction is much greater, right? Think of any sugya that you had to work at. Any sugya of the Gemara that you had to work at, you had to draw it out, you had to write out the words, write out the shakavataya, right? And really put hard effort into it. It's much more rewarding when you get there. Something which kind of just falls in your lap, it's not as rewarding. It doesn't have the same effect. It doesn't have the same gishmak, as we call it, the same enjoyment in it. But I think that those are superficial explanations. There has to be something deeper here. I mean, it's true. If we work hard at our learning and it's toiling and it's difficulty, we get more reward. And it's true if we put in more effort, then we have more satisfaction. But there has to be something more here. So the idea behind learning and the difficulty in learning is when we toil in our learning, and you've all experienced this, when you're toiling in your learning, you connect to the learning much deeper. You're immersed in the learning. When you're struggling to figure out what does the Gemara mean, what does Rashi mean, what does Tosfos mean, what's the difference between the two, right? How does this translate down to a halacha, right? Why did the Rashi go this way in the sugya? Why did Tosfos go that way? When you're toiling in these ideas, when you're working hard in those ideas, you're immersed in the Torah. And when you're immersed in the Torah, you're immersed in Kedusha, right? That's how you have a connection with Kedusha in a very profound way. The more immersed you are, the deeper connection you have with Torah, the more immersed you are in Kedusha, and even more than that. The more immersed you are in Kedusha, the more chance you have of fighting the Yetzer Hara. A lot of guys, they come to Rebbeim and say, how do I fight the Yetzer Hara? I have a Yetzer Hara for this, I have a Yetzer Hara for that. I think about women too much, or I have, gaiva issues, pride issues, or anger issues. How do I deal with these things? Yeah? So the Gemara says the most important thing is learning Torah. That's, again, you have to address these things, and a HaRav will help you. If you have particular issues, you have to address them. A HaRav will help you address those issues. But at the same time, the Torah itself has an amazing impact on these things. The Torah itself. It's a Gemara. In Kiddushin Daf Lamed Amud Beis, Gemara brings a brayso. Tana Rabbanim, v'samtem. It says you'll place the Torah. You will place the Torah. So the Gemara makes a drasha. Sam tam. It's a pure, how do you call it sam? A pure medicine. Nimshal Torah kesam chayim. The Torah is compared to a medicine or a cure, a remedy that's full of life. Yeah? What's the idea? Mashal, the Gemara brings a parable here. La'adam shehikes beno maka gedola. A father gave his son a smack. He hit him very hard. V'niach lo retia o makasoi. And he put a bandage on the blow. In other words, he hit his kid, yeah, and there's like a wound over there, and he put a bandage on the wound. V'amar lo b'ni, and he says, my son, kol zman sheretia zu al machascha, all the time that the bandage is on your wound, achol mashanaska, you can eat whatever you want, shasa mashanaska, you can drink whatever you want, v'rachutz ben b'chayim ben b'chamin, b'tzoinen, you can wash in hot water and cold water, ve'natam yisyara, and you don't have to be afraid of anything. Yeah? So in other words, if you have the bandage on yourself, on the wound, you can do whatever you want. You can eat any kind of food you want. You can drink any kind of food, drink any kind of drink you want. You can wash it. You can do whatever you want. Ve'im atam mavira, if you take off the bandage, harehi malanumi, it becomes infected. Kacha Kodesh Baruch Hu amar lehem liyisrael. Hashem says the same thing to the Jewish people. Banai, my children, barasi Yetzer Hara, I created a Yetzer Hara. That's the wound that we have. We walk around with the Yetzer Hara, right? Ubarasi lo Torah tavlin, but I created the Torah as a spice, as a way of dealing with the Yetzer Hara. V'imatem oskim b'Torah, if you're involved with Torah, einatem nimsarim b'yado, you will not be handed over to the Yetzer Hara. Yeah? V'im einatem oskim b'Torah, if you're not involved, atem nimsarim b'yado, you're handed over to him. So this Gemara is difficult, right? So we're saying like this, if the Yetzer Hara is there and it's powerful and it's taking us astray, if we're involved with Torah, we're all set. If we're not involved, so what? You have to walk around. You have to walk around all day with the Gemara. You're going to go working. You're going to be working in high tech. You have to go with your Gemara with you every spare second. No, that's not the pshat in the Gemara. That's not the pshat in the Gemara. The pshat in the Gemara is if your main thing in your life is Torah, and even when you're in your high-tech job, you're dreaming about being able to learn, you're dreaming about the time you're going to get out and go to the Beis Medrash, and when you're in the Beis Medrash, you're completely immersed in what you're doing, then the Yetzer Hara won't touch you. If you stop learning, chas v'shalom, if a guy stops learning, he doesn't learn at all, then the Yetzer Hara will get him. So the only real way we have of dealing with the Yetzer Hara is through Torah. Yeah, I mean, again, if a guy has really, serious midas issues, sometimes there is psychology and there are counselors. I'm not saying that these guys don't help, but for most things, the Torah itself does the job. But we have to be oskim, we have to be in it. And again, because the Gemara is so hard, And because we work, and because we toil, and because we have to immerse ourselves in that, we're more connected to that, and we have more of a connection. We can fight the Yetzer Hara in a much more clear way. Yeah? So again, this I think is a deeper idea. The harder it is, and the more toiling that's involved, you're more connected, which means you're connected to a Kodesh Baruch Hu, as we spoke out in one of the earlier talks here. And also, if you're connected more deeply to that antidote for the Yetzer Hara, you have more of a chance of dealing with the Yetzer Hara. You have the weapons, you have the equipment to fight the Yetzer Hara. If you're learning Torah and you're looking at your phone and you're jumping in and out and you're learning superficially, you're not really in it, then you're not going to have the same effect. If you're in it, you're working hard, you have that Tosas in front of you, you're breaking your teeth to try to figure it out, or the Gemara in front of you, or the Rashi in front of you, you're working so hard to try to get to it, then you have the antidote in your hand. And if you do that while you're in yeshiva, you'll carry that with you when you leave yeshiva. That'll be something you make an acquisition, you carry that with you after you leave yeshiva. Okay. But there's a problem. That's very nice. But there's a problem here. Yeah? What are we holding? I got a few more minutes, okay. The problem is, the nature of people is that we tend to be lazy. Right? The Mesil Shisharim talks about this in Zrizus. The nature of people is that we are, by nature, we like inertia. We like to take it easy, you know? It was interesting, for a while, I worked for the U.S. government. I was a student in university, so I had a job, is in and out of working in the U.S. government. So there was this guy in our office, young guy, and him and his friends were, they made some money, and so they bought a house, off the beach, kind of like an hour or two out of Washington, and they had this house by the beach. And all the guys, when they would go there and spend time in their house, so they had these T-shirts. They all had the same T-shirts that say easy living. Easy living. That's what they wanted, easy living. Relax, have a beer, relax, sit there, go out to the ocean. So that's what we like. We like it easy. So how are we supposed to overcome that desire for the easy life and realize that working hard is really what it's all about and how we're going to be successful in our Torah learning? So I think if we look at the world out there, people that have success in any field, they work hard. Yeah? You can have a guy goes to medical school, right? So you have a guy goes to medical school, he takes it easy, he cruises through. He may or may not make it. Some of these guys won't make it. They'll get bumped out. A guy that's focused and he works hard, he's going to make it through, he's going to be successful, he's going to be a doctor. Same thing in law school. Law school is even more like that. Guy goes to law school, if you don't make law review and you don't, do really, really well in law school, you're not going to get the job. You're not going to get the job, you won't get in the prestigious firm, you won't get ahead. So the guys that work hard, the guys that are focused, are the guys that do well. They're the guys that do well over there. And so it's the same thing in yeshiva. If you work hard, you're going to have satisfaction, you're going to have success, you're going to be happy if you work hard and you're learning, right? How to read. For many guys, they're still struggling how to read and translate a Gemara. You work hard, you can do this. So many guys start with nothing and they make it to the point that they can read and translate a Gemara by themselves. All the guys that we send downstairs to the Beis Medrash, most of those guys started with nothing. And here they are reading, translating a Gemara with Rishonim, with Achronim by themselves. They're on their feet. That's the first step. You can do that, right? To get clarity in the Gemara, you can do that. You maybe have to fight. You have to write. You have to go back and forth. To ask somebody, right? Go over it again, go over it another time. But you can get to clarity in remembering you also. Remembering you work hard, you review enough, you can remember what you learned, right? You can become a Talmid Chacham, right? But it takes hard work. It's not going to come, like I say, through sleeping or through osmosis or intravenous. It comes through toiling, right? It comes through toiling. That's how a person can become a Talmid Chacham. And, you look at so many of our Talmidim today, not only have moved downstairs, which is a very high level of learning, but have moved on to Mir Yeshiva. Anytime I walk into Mir Yeshiva, all the Magid Shiurim, they come and hug me and they kiss me and they thank me for the Talmidim that we've sent over there. the amazing Talmidim that have gone over there that are some of the best guys in Mir, which is one of the most celebrated yeshivas in the Torah world. So you can do it. And these are guys who all started very humbly. You look at even some of your Rebbeim here. Many of your Rebbeim are people that started out in the yeshiva here. I mean, I remember them when they walked in, Rabbi Gross, Rabbi Hotaj. I remember when they first walked in the door, You look at them, Talmidei Chachamim, very, very, very chashuv people. So you can do it, but it's hard work. They all worked very, very hard to get to where they got to. So a person's going to say, I'm not a studious type. I never did so well in school. I'm not a studious type. Come on. So Torah has nothing to do with a studious type. It has nothing to do with, brain power, being intelligent or being more intellectual. My Rebbe Shlita, Rav Aaron Feldman, he went, when he was a young Kollel person, he went to all the Gedolei Yisrael. He had a theory. It looks that way. He had a theory that success in learning is connected to intelligence. Now, you can make a case like that, right? It looks like intelligent guys that come in, whipping through the Gemara like no problem. It's like cutting through whipped cream, And other guys are like, banging their heads against the wall, and it's so hard for them. So it looks like intelligence is connected to success in Torah. So he went to all the Gedolim with this theory that intelligence is connected to success in Torah. Not only they rejected what he said, but they yelled at him. They said, no way, no connection. Fear to say such a thing, no connection. It's all hard work. That's all it is. And I've seen it. I've seen guys who came into either in my yeshiva days or guys who came into the center, they were not particularly gifted or brilliant people, and they just worked and worked and worked and became Talmidei Chachamim. So anyways, so that's the idea, Rabbi Sai, when we're standing up all night, and it's hard, and we're tired, and we're schwitzing away to try to, we're going to have sugyas here that we're going to be learning over here in the yeshiva, is that the idea is the Torah is not, yes, HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives it as a gift, but we have to work. He gives it as a gift to us. It is a gift, right? Torah is something beyond us. It's so high. It's so up there. It's like HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself. So we need it to be given to us as a gift, but we have to work hard to be zoiche, to receive that gift. Just one last thing. The Kli Yakar has an interesting question here. As we prepare for Shavuos, we're how much longer? A week away, right? A little more than a week away. Yeah. So the Kli Yakar has an interesting question. We call Shavuos Chag HaShavuot, the holiday of weeks. It's a strange name. It should be called Chag Matan Torasenu. It should be called the Chag of our gift of the Torah. What's this idea of weeks? What does that have to do with anything? So says the Kli Yakar, a fascinating idea. He says the main thing of Shavuos is the time leading up to it. It's not the day of Shavuot itself, right? That's not the main thing. It's the 7 weeks that lead up to it. So what are these 7 weeks about? There's a lot of different pshatim here, what the 7 weeks are about. But one group of Meforshim say over here that the whole idea of the counting is we left Egypt. We left Egypt, which was a very impure place, with a lot of tumah, with a lot of impurity. And we were working towards purity of Har Sinai. It's counting just like a person who's tameh. He has to count to leave behind his tumah, or even a woman, if she becomes impure, she has to count to leave the tumah behind. So we're counting to leave behind the impurity of Egypt. And we're moving away from that into the purity of accepting the Torah. And so, for us also, we left behind a lot of stuff over there that maybe wasn't so pure in our days before yeshiva. And this is a chance to be counting towards something much more pure. And it's a time, again, to be more focused in our Torah, especially as we're counting towards Shavuos and moving towards Shavuos, maybe less connected to the internet, maybe less connected to the outside world, and trying to focus and move towards purity as we move towards the Chag HaShavuos. Our simcha when we come to Shavuos is the immersion that we have. we embrace the difficulty. We embrace the hardship of learning Gemara and the difficulties and the challenges of learning Gemara. And that's our simcha because we are immersed in the Torah, which is the greatest simcha that we could have. Yeah? A person goes into a mikveh, he walks into the mikveh, right? He's inside the mikveh, right? And the mikveh surrounds him. He walks into a sukkah. The whole sukkah is around him. When we're learning with the difficulty and schwitzing and working hard and arguing with our chavrusa and trying to struggle to figure out what's going on there, we're immersed in the Torah. We're totally immersed in it, which also means we have much more ability to fight back against the Yetzer Hara. The more immersed we are in that, that's the kli that helps us to fight the Yetzer Hara. So we have a simcha, even though learning is hard and even though staying up all night is hard, that is our simcha because we're immersed in the Torah, which gives us more kedusha, and it also gives us more ability to fight against the Yetzer Hara. We should have a Chag Sameach B'ezrat Hashem, and we should accept the Torah with love and b'simcha and work hard in our learning and enjoy the process. You can say, okay, it's hard learning Torah, I got to suffer, okay. I'll grin and bear it. Or you can embrace the process and say, this is the process. This is what it is. This is what it is, and this is enjoyable, and I'm binding to the Torah, and I'm supposed to be working hard here, and that's exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. And if we embrace that, it's a whole different experience. So we should all be zoiche to enjoy the journey. It's hard. It's not so easy. Enjoy the journey, embrace the journey, and be successful in the journey.
We are now in a state of war against a very dangerous enemy, Iran. Iran, which was the financier of numerous terrorist organizations.
Shalom, I'm David Bagirov, originally from Azerbaijan. I was born and raised in there. I didn't know anything about Judaism.
Ohr Somayach is in a different type of a war. They're trying to secure our spiritual survival.
I think Ohr Somayach is absolutely necessary for the survival of Judaism in a world where everything is trying to tear us apart.
Lo b'chayo v'lo b'koach kiyim beruchi.
Ohr Somayach is on the front lines, battling assimilation, giving the Jewish students an understanding how magnificent his heritage is.
This is such a critical time because now our eyes are open. The world is turned on us.
Ohr Somayach is a place where B'nai Torah created yesh me'ayin, like God's creation, something literally from nothing.
Before I came to Ohr Somayach, Judaism was just something in the background.
Every city that I've ever been to, in all parts of the world, there have been Ohr Somayach graduates and Ohr Somayach alumni.
The levels here are unbelievable. We have people who don't know Aleph from Beis. We have students who are learning Gemara Be'irim, Sois.
Reb Nota Shira de Rosh Hashiva, Zechroina Levrocha, was a real visionary. And Ohr Somayach was actually the very first major kiruv endeavor and institution.
It's about touching something that speaks to me, to my life, connects me to my past, and gives me some reason to go forward to the future.
They often achieve in just 1 or 2 years what one would normally expect many years to attain.
Here I discovered something powerful. Torah isn't just history, it's the survival of the Jewish people.
This is what Ohr Somayach does every day.
Is 30% of the Torah community in Eretz Yisrael is either Bali Tshuva or children of Bali Tshuva. 30%. And so we need a strong Ohr Somayach because that is what's going to ensure the survival of the Torah community and of the Jewish people in general.
I knew I was Jewish, I just never really knew what that meant.
Included in the mitzvah of loving Hashem is to bring his own children closer to Hashem.
And that's what Rav Nata Shiller Zatzal, that's what the Rosh Hashiva built this place to be. A place where any Jew, regardless of their background, can come here and be able to find their chelek, their portion in Torah.
Ohr Somayach can't do it itself. Ohr Somayach is a yeshiva that lives by the contributions of Klal Yisrael.
But there's so much more work that has to be done. And without your help, we're not going to be able to do it.
Ohr Somayach is vital for the survival of Klal Yisrael.
Buy into Ohr Somayach today and become a partner, become a shutef.
And whatever we can do, whether it's physical, whether it's spiritual, and perhaps most importantly, to invest to invest in the future of the Jewish people.
Because the yeshiva has a very firmly established dita that we will never, ever turn down a student. Because of an inability to pay, we will find a way. But finding that way does cost money.
And at the schus of this huge endeavor and great mitzvah, Kodesh Baruch Hu should bench you Ohr, b'chein, b'chesed, u'barachamim.